Hey there, welcome back to Eager Gridless Beaver. We are working the off-grid wilderness garden today. We didn't start any tomato seeds this year, and so we don't have any tomato seedlings ourselves. We just have a lot of space issues and warmth issues, so we opted this year to just buy some seedlings, and they were actually hard to find. So we're just getting started with some tomatoes. I was able to find some real small ones. So what we're going to be working today is this garden bed. It's one of our oldest garden beds, so I know that the soil is in pretty good shape. I'm pretty sure I added some compost in here last year. I also added some peat moss on top. We're going to augment this bed a little bit further and get to planting some tomatoes today. Right, Link? There is some garlic here. I'm going to be pulling that out. I don't really have to work this whole bed, but for how long it's going to take versus working around the tomatoes in the future, I'm just going to do it all right now and prepare for things. See, I'm going to pull up these garlic here that are just... So they're very small. It's almost not worth dealing with. You know, obviously they haven't gone to producing much in the way of bulbs yet because they're still growing. They'll do that as the last step of the garlic production. So I'll leave those 2 or 3. These ones are so small. I'll just leave them. They're not going to grow well anyway. That's the thing. These things that are all clustered together, what you're looking at there is actually garlic that has been left over from last year that we missed, like a bulb. It broke off when we were harvesting, or for whatever reason we just didn't see it, or it might have been small. Or maybe Harrison came in and chewed the top off of it. So what we're doing is actually gonna pull. I should just pull them out. They're not gonna grow. Yeah, I'm just gonna pull them out. It's not gonna help anything, and I don't want to work around them. I might just plant some more whatchamacallit in here, buckwheat, just to condition the soil a little bit. But either way, let's get to it. Enough chatter, and then we're gonna put in our 3 varieties of tomatoes. So we have Jet Star, just to keep on talking about these. We'll get some close-ups of this in a second. Jet Star, a Burpee Big Boy, and Beefmaster. So we have 18. We're not gonna put in all 18 right now. We're just gonna put in a fairly normal amount. I don't want to make this bed all tomatoes. So what I'm going to do is just put some in along the backside so I can still work the front and get a lot of sun there. Let's get to it. Slugs. Man, the slugs we're fine, but right now they're bad. Okay, pull up this garlic. Let's take a look. Sorry, garlic. I'm never quite sure where this is. I should put it there. It's probably pretty good. Pull these up as best I can. I mean, the thing is, I worry about pulling 1 or 2 or 3 of these clumps. We probably had, I don't know, 100 or 200 bulbs we didn't get to, we didn't give away. So what that means is, this might seem like a lot of garlic that I'm getting rid of here. But it's more soil than anything else. I don't want to waste the soil, so we'll break it up a little bit more here. And we'll get this garlic into the compost just so it can do some good in some way. All right, let's get to hoeing. And normally the dogs don't really go through these whole areas, but right now I don't really care because I haven't even worked it yet. Once I get after them over stuff, they generally behave. Okay, so the 3 varieties we're going with, just before I start hoeing this situation. A Beefmaster. They're very small, 6 of those. The Burpee Big Boy. We're going for slicers this year. And Jetstar. I've heard about these. I've never tried them, but we'll get going on these. Start tilling all this up. I mean, it's mostly peat moss on top, so there's not a lot of clay soil underneath. I don't know. It's always sort of like, you see on places like Flooring Lottery where you rip up carpet or something that's over top of a floor and you get maybe hardwood underneath. I sort of feel the same way about the soil in these beds. Some of them have been conditioned more and some less due to various reasons. So it's really nice when you get in a spot and you till in and you dig it up and you see that, hey, that's actually in pretty good shape. So let's get that shovel out. We're gonna mix this over once, not just from the top down. Now I added peat moss on top. Let's see this. It's not too bad. Not as much worm growth as some of the other beds. But we'll get this, there's a couple inches of topsoil, not topsoil, but peat moss on top. Get that going. So we'll continue to flip these beds over. This bed still has these rocks up close. I've started pulling them back further, but I haven't done here yet. I want to get these tomatoes in, but it's something I'm going to do soon as well. If you haven't seen any of the videos where I've been making beds better through pulling back the rocks and augmenting the soil, much like this video, it's right here. Check it out. Pretty simple stuff. You just got to do it regularly. Mixing your soil, doing this work, turning your beds, giving it time to rest. Repeat, 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 repeat. It's all fine. It's all exercise. This work doesn't take that long, even this beds, as long as you break it into sizable chunks. My back is conditioned for it now, so it's not nearly as bad. Early in the season, very different story, very sore backs. Not many worms in here though. It's sort of worrisome how little worms I've seen compared to some of the other beds. I'm sure that means it needs more organic matter, more compost, something for the worms to eat, but I mean, it's very limited. I did just have a bunch of peat moss on top, so that might not be helping things, but compared to the other beds I've been doing, this bed is, health-wise, there's some, but it just doesn't seem like it's doing as great. Okay, it's pretty far back up there, but I'm in one of these situations where it just bugs me. There's a rock in here. No, maybe not. I just thought there's a big rock here. Yeah, there's right underneath there. Hear it? So there's a large rock here. It has to go. Doesn't help anything like that, having rocks like that. At least I don't know of any. Where it's like, oh, that's so beneficial to have rocks right underneath your soil. Said nobody anytime ever. Unless you're growing rocks, I guess. But not really doing that. You know, speaking of the soil and growing so far in this season, I'll go back and watch these some days. It's good for me to talk about these things too. It's been a very, very dry spring and very early. We're basically, I think, about 3 weeks ahead of where we normally are. It's unusual for the leaves to be out here this early. You know, it is almost June, but it's unusual. It was 2015 around here that there was still snow on the ground May 5th. It took a long time for everything to warm up that year in particular. But it's just been really nice. You see how far ahead you can see this garlic here, how well it's doing. It's been rather amazing how much stuff has been growing early. And there hasn't been a frost date. I mean, the last frost, I don't even remember when it was. It was in May, but pretty early May. And we can have frost dates until June. So that's what I'm talking about, is aspects of strange things are afoot. It appears, anyway. I'm no climatologist, or meteorologist, so I definitely don't know everything about everything. And speaking of which, all of this stuff that we're seeing, these are just examples of me, what I've been doing. It doesn't make me an expert on anything. I typically like to learn, and like that, I mean, sometimes you're a byproduct of the content and the knowledge bases that you are utilizing. So for me, I do watch videos at a certain point, but I try to think about all aspects and what it should be first. Maybe you might call that being stubborn too. I've been called that before. But it's fun to discover, right? It's fun to work things out. That's why gardening is so much fun. It's because it's so friggin' hard. So many variables. It can be very simple stuff. I don't make it seem like gardening is that complicated, but you have to keep on keeping on. Failure is an option. That happens quite a bit. Okay, so this has all been loosely mixed in. I'm going to take the hoe and go with this a second time. I'm also going to throw some more lime down here. You can see where some moss in some areas was starting to kick in, and the soil here is so acidic. And when you add, I mean, tomatoes don't really care that much, but I know if they give them just better soil, they will grow. Just because they prefer acidic soil doesn't mean they prefer growing in acid. So some amount of lime should benefit everything. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to generally augment this soil with a couple things. Fertilizer, just hand spread, nothing too crazy, just to help things out a little bit. This is just a general 10-10-10, so it's nothing too specific. get half decent coverage in an area. You know, I'm also just taking a more aggressive stance on fertilizer. In the past, I was trying organic and trying to not use as much fertilizer, but you know what I noticed? It makes a huge difference. So I'm okay with it. And just through trial and error and seeing how much results I get from using things like powdered lime, really helps nullify our acidic soil around here. Try not to breathe this in. Try to pick the direction that you're not standing in, or if the pets are around. Can you go away, please, little pet? And then I'm going to till all this in, so it doesn't matter if it's a little bit more clumpy. I just want to have a half decent base to be able to get established. I know the soil is very acidic, so me treating the stuff with lime is not a big deal. I probably need even more, but that's going to be enough. Tomatoes don't mind it, but now we're going to get to tilling or hoeing. I probably need more peat moss too, but unfortunately I'm out of peat moss. So now as we go along, I'll break up these chunks, probably with the hoe more than my hands, but the bed's in pretty good shape. I gotta move all these rocks further away because they are a real pain. Next time, I get these tomatoes planted. That's the goal here today. Get this off-grid wilderness garden food supply kicking into gear a little bit more. Things are doing great this year. Lettuce bed, which we've covered for the first year, has made a tremendous difference, as well as treating with some slug products so that we don't have as much issues with slugs, because they weren't too bad to start, but this week they've been nasty. And speaking of things that we've also done this week, we've also taken a little bit of an aggressive stance on the Japanese beetle that's been devastating our grape plants. Hopefully so that we can fix the problem that we're having, which is spending too much time working on pest-related issues. So we have also reduced our potato, the amount we have planted. Same sort of thing. I'm hoping it's going to make a difference for things like how much time we have to spend getting pests off of the potatoes, because it's hard to push things forward when you're fighting pests. There, still some big clumps in here. I definitely need some more peat moss, but we're going to call it. It's one of those things I could spend a lot of time on this, but if I do, I won't get to my other scheduled project today, which is hugelkulturing. That was good. Okay. I'm going to go pour coffee and drink it now that it's been steeping for as long as it took me to get this far along. But we're basically ready for planting, so we'll get to that in mere moments. Everything has been mixed. The lime has been added. The fertilizer has been added. We've tilled, we've hoed. So the next step is to plant some of those aforementioned tomatoes in the front. We have a lot of space in the front, so we'll put some low-hanging things, but we're going to make sure we have enough space. I typically, unfortunately, overcrowd things sometimes. I've also moved this bed up this way. I've been doing it in beds, just creating more loft by taking away this edge where the rocks and things are. So I'm not trying to improve that part. I just want a high bed with good soil that I can grow things in. So that's what we're doing here. We're just getting this stuff nice and lofty with a lot of organic matter, which I don't really have as much as I'd like. This bed needs work. I probably will add some of our compost in. I should just do that right now. Why don't I? Compost is so good. I think I have some compost ready. You want to come along and check those things too? Let's do it before we move on, because if I can add some compost in as I'm doing this stuff, it'll make a world of difference. You know what? No, I'm not going to do that, because it's going to take me away from doing this. I just want to get this done. But what we're going to do is I'll come back and top dress with the compost as soon as I take it out. I've already used a bunch of the compost. I'm just not sure if there's enough ready to set up the camera and everything again. So let's get to that. We're gonna put the tomatoes in the backside here. So we'll get those sort of laid out. Not bad. Okay. This is just an enzyme we like to use. I forgot it up above, I just went and grabbed it. I'm just going to put a little bit of dose of this in. When we put this in, we've added fertilizer and stuff into the soil, and that's very helpful, but we're also going to be fertilizing through the season. So getting the soil ready is important. Adding a bunch of nutrients into the soil, I'm not sure if it's always beneficial. I don't like to screw around with the earthworms too much, and trying to use things like natural enzymes and things, it tends to help. So anyway, we're putting in our Big Boy burpees. I'm going to do one whole row of one of these. I'm going to start with the Jet Star. I've tried these other varieties before and I like them, but I've never really messed with these ones before. So let's try these Jet Stars out and see how they go. So we're going to start them out basically 1 foot apart. I'm just going to be using rough estimation. Tomatoes like being dug in, so I'm not too worried about them. I gotta get water too. Goodness gracious me. These were watered. It did rain last night, but I'm just gonna give this front part a water in just so we have a little bit more. And these are the same, but I'm gonna give them, it's good to get them nice and wet before you start. So we'll just do that, get them nice and wet. And then I'm gonna take them all out and place them where I sort of want them to be. Keep that, just so we know what it is that we're planting. And I'll get these laid out. My fingers sort of in between them. This is how I do it. You can reuse these. I just find it helps overall because then you're not pulling it all apart. Sometimes the roots just grow together. So that's that. Take number one. I'm just going to put that out of the camera shot. Number two. Oops. That's where that one's going to go. Number three. There. So you get the idea. We're moving further along. I'm putting the plants, laying them down in place. I could crowd these and get these all in, but I'm not going to. Instead, yes I will. I need to go a little bit further this way, start in this corner more. I think I can create enough space if I do this. I actually have quite a bit more room on this side, so move these all down a little bit. That looks good. So they're all laid out, and I'm also talking so I remember what I'm supposed to be doing. I know, I dig them into the ground, but we're going to be putting them in one at a time here. So this process is not complicated. We have a small seedling. We're going to break this part a little bit just to help it out somewhat. The soil is loose enough that I can just reach in here. You don't want to compact it too much. Create a spot where it can go. Drop in some helper. Give it a little mix. Put the tomato down a little deeper than it needs to go, so the leaves will and the stem will partially be buried because tomatoes like being replanted. and then cover it over. Looks pretty small, but this will help out the growing process and give it a good robust root system to be able to support itself as it gets a little older. Okay, so we take our seedling once again. It's one of the small ones, not very, you can grow this yourself. I mean, these seem so small, but they're effective for what they are. I think we could have grown them like this if we just used these same simple principles versus all the space we dedicate to it. Take it. Create some space in a hole. Add some helper. Mix it around. Put the tomato in deeper than it needs to be. Recover. So the stem is... What's that? See the shadow go over top? It's a big something. So these seedlings, as you can see, they're much bigger. If I bury them down to there, they should be quite a bit more sticking out. We don't want them to be sticking out as far. Not complicated. We're going to finish these off now. Okay, cool. The whole row is done here now, which leaves me with 12 more to do. I'm not sure what I should do. I don't really want to crowd these ones out. I like the fact that it's going to have space here. Where else could I put these other ones? I have some space over here. Let's try 6 more over there. I might have to squeeze them in, or maybe I'll put less. But yeah, we'll move everything down over here and be all set. Do the same thing. First thing, get this watered. Water the area. Okay, you might recognize this bed from a couple weeks ago where we spent a little bit of time and improved it. I'm just watering in a little bit of powdered lime that I just put in, and we're going to do the same process as we did for the other 2 beds, which is take these things off. So I have my tomatoes. I'm going to parcel the tomatoes off, put them where I want to plant them. I might have to step in here, much like I said when I created this new configuration. I said how hard it's going to be to get to some spots. It's what we're seeing now. Sorry about the compaction that you're seeing. I don't want to be stepping up here, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. So I'm up here. I have, it feels like the soil is really loamy though, so that's at least a good thing. I'm trying to stand on 2 spots only so that I don't have any issues with compaction all over the place. It's not as loose. It seems pretty dry as well, but not in too bad a shape. Everything could use some more water, but it'll work. Oh, that's nasty. I can't really get my hand in any further. Oh my gosh. Still a big pile of clay there. I'm gonna try it. We have to work with what we have. It doesn't always work out, but let's try it. Bury it deeper, and hopefully it can stay to the good soil on top. Oh, it's not great either. It's pretty rough down below. I think there's a big rock there too. Holy moly! So you do all this work, and then you go to plant things, and you find stuff that is not good. Oh Oh, that's all bad. I gotta compact some more soil. Not that it matters for some of this area, so I shouldn't feel too bad. Let's see if I can get it. No. That's a little better. Rocks like that aren't a big help. Add some of this in. Mix it around. I'm sweating so much now that I can't see out through this net. Let's try to find some other half-decent spots here, I guess. That's probably the battle I'm facing more. That's a pretty good spot. Pretty loose soil for the most part. There's still some big rocks like that. It's a lot of peat moss. But it is what it is. And then one more. There. All right. Tomatoes planted. I love it when a project finishes up, so nothing better. That area is a little bit compacted where I was stepping. I'm just gonna leave it. I'm gonna have to get in here anyway. Hopefully I created enough space for these tomatoes to do okay. Everything seems like it's in good shape. I started out thinking I was gonna get them all in one bed, but when you want to space things appropriately, it often happens that you start shifting things to other beds. Not that we do things appropriately much around here, but you know, just from working this bed and trying to put my hands in like I did for the other bed, there's another year to go for this to be into really good shape. The other two beds are in pretty good shape. The soil needs still more work, but it's okay. It's all a work in progress, and we're trending in the right directions with our wilderness garden. You know, you see in behind me on this shot, you know, this area has been used to be woods, poorly managed woods. So we've slowly been converting it into things that are useful for us, garden beds, aspects of a food forest, and it's really starting to hit its stride, and the soil is starting to get in good shape. The stuff that we started out 5 years ago or 6 years ago is starting to finally get into a spot where it can do what we need it to do, so that's great. And as we keep on picking away at our tasks, you know, things will be in shape. That's what I love about gardening too. Once you get it established, it's not much work to maintain it, but you need good soil. So I do say that growing a good garden is really about growing good soil. That's what we're really focused on now, and trying to make our beds work for us, and putting the effort in where it's necessary. So thanks for sticking around. Come back next time. We're going to be working on some hugelkultur very soon, finishing off that project so that we have some even more beds to be able to work with and manage. Not that that's always great, but if you get things established and fill a spot, you don't have to do any more work. You just let nature do its thing, and it gives you the good stuff in the future. So that's what we try to do. Get the beds going, trending in the direction that works for us, and then reap the benefits. So once again, thanks again for sticking around. We're eager Gridless Beaver. I need a drink of water. Take care till next time.